Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Blue Golf Ball today with another Pokemon TCG news. Well, I typically do Pokemon TCG online battles, but today I'm going to share with you guys the Roaring Skies set. So this is actually pretty much old news at this point. You can see here it came on February 12th. It's quite a while back. Some of the news that leaked out to us here at PokeBeach.com. You can see the link here. I'll have the link also below. You guys probably already see these. These are pretty cool though. I mean, we got the Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza here. Look at that. What is this? Some kind of interesting beard, I guess. I don't know. You know, we got a variety of new EXs and Megas. We got Deoxys again. So it's pretty sweet. We also have these two decks, right? We got Articuno, 120 HP, 120 HP Zapdos. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's pretty cool. We got some of these base set guys come back at us. You know, we have a variety of different stuff available to us. Regirock, right, 110 HP, fighting Pokemon. Thank you, PokeBeach, for these awesome scans here. I'm assuming, you know, if you have like a local Walmart nearby or something like that, these are going to be probably around 12 to even maybe 15 bucks. I don't know. It depends on where you're at around the world. But yeah, here is the Roaring Skies box set. 36 booster packs here. You can get the pre-orders on eBay. There's some of them going on right now. You can get it as low as like $86 US dollars. I've seen it on eBay. And I mean, they can go as much as low as 86 to as much as like, who knows? But I mean, you can even find these for even cheaper. I've heard of stories where people have like opportunities to get them at like as low as 75 bucks a pop. That's crazy. But anyways, you guys aren't too interested in these images. What you guys are interested in is the analysis on these scans and these translations. So let's take a look. I'm not going to go through all of them. That'll be quite a long video, but let's just take a peek at some of these more interesting Pokemon. We have Executor here, both grass type here. You notice, you know, these sets always kind of go by the types, and you know, it's kind of nice how they organize it that way. Anyways, we're going to skip around a little bit. We got, let's see here, Beautifly here, 130 HP. It's weak to fire, but no resistance. It's got free retreat. It's pretty nice there. And basically, you know, it's got this ability to prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's EX. So it is a stage 2, and it's going to take a while to evolve, but it's got the same effect as like Suicune and Sigilyph. But the advantage is that, you know, with Suicune and Sigilyph, they are basic Pokemon, and if your opponent has a Silent Lab, then that kind of doesn't work anymore. Likewise, or otherwise, Beautifly, I mean, the ability can bypass, you know, Silent Lab. But how many people really play Silent Lab anyways, right? I don't know. Whirlwind, you know, it says you can switch your opponent. You may have your opponent switch his, or, you know, but then you don't really choose. Your opponent would switch, you know, on their behalf. We don't have anything too interesting here. We do have Dustox here, right, evolving from Cascoon. You can take one more prize card. This is basically like Lugia's ability, but it's made into a trait here, a primal trait. And it makes it pretty nice because who knows, maybe you can knock something out with a pound, you know, and put something down to very low HP, and then you can pound it for, you know, one more prize card. Stone Wind, not too great, I don't think, right? This attack does 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. I mean, you know, for 3 energy, you're only doing 50 damage. That's not too great. And you can't even attack the active Pokemon, right? So it only does it to your opponent's bench Pokemon. So that means if your opponent's only playing one Pokemon right now for some reason, right, you wouldn't even be able to do Stone Wind. You just have to pound away. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It does have its advantages of hitting the bench Pokemon. And we do have some items cards that we're going to take a look at later that kind of help these bench hitting things a little bit better. But anyways, let's move on. We do have one of my favorites, Ninjask over here. Ninjask, 70 HP. The one from Dragons Exalted was only 60 HP. And likewise with the one from Dragons Exalted, it's got the ability. It's also got, well, this one's got free retreat. The one in Dragons Exalted had 1 retreat cost. But let's take a look at the ability here. Once during your turn before your attack, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you can discard a card from your hand. Then you can discard a top card of your opponent's deck. Now, I mean, this could work if you have all 4 Ninjasks out, and you can actually mill your opponent 4 cards right there, right, and then you'd have to discard 4 cards, but the thing is, if you have like execute, right, you can just discard it and then propagate them back into your hand, and then you can use something like Bundle B to discard more cards from your opponent by doing Bundle B's whatever attack from Primal Clash. Anyways, Spectrum will probably never do that, but it is pretty nice that you can kind of search for 2 Ninjask and put them onto your bench. Pretty cool. That way, you don't have to evolve, right? Pretty slick, I think. So, anyways, we have Shedinja here with Curse Rain. I'm not too impressed, but here's something that's really interesting, right? Shedinja here is only 30 HP, but it's got a pretty good attack here by Transient Cry. 50 damage, right? It does 50 times. This attack does 50 times the number of damage counters on this Pokemon. Now, you might be thinking, that's crazy. Why would that even be? What? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Well, think about this. We could try using Mew, and we could use Dimension Valley, and Mew could actually do this. So let's say we have 3 damages on, 3 damage counters on Mew. Very unlikely, but Mew from Dragons Exalted and reprinted back in Legendary Treasures, just having 3 damage counters, okay, and a Muscle Band on a Mew. We can copy this attack for free with Dimension Valley and hit for 170 damage. 170 damage with 3 damage counters on Mew and no energy. That is pretty cool. I don't know. It's just a thought, right? Who knows? Maybe Shedinja could be pretty good. But yeah, I'm not sure. Anyways. Let's see. What else do we have here that's pretty interesting? I'm going to skip over a couple of these. I mean, you guys might be thinking, hey, these are good cards. But, I'm going to skip over them really quick. Oh, we got Articuno here, 120 HP. Articuno has always been a fan favorite, a legendary Pokemon from the base set. Very classic. This is the half full art. Very cool. Same thing as Lugia. You can take 1 more prize card if need be, right? You can't really shut off these traits like you can shut off abilities. Now, we have here Cold Sigh. Your opponent just goes to sleep, ho-hum. Tri-Edge does 20 plus. You can flip coins. I mean, there's some potential here. You can flip all 3 heads. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty long stretch for only, okay, if you flip all tails, you're only doing 20 damage for 3 energy. That is not efficient. So, I don't know how I feel about that. Anyways, we're going to skip over a couple of these. And you're probably thinking, hey, wait, what about these? I apologize. We do have Zapdos here. I will have an honorable mention for Zapdos. We're not going to really look at it. But here we go. We have Thundurus EX. Thundurus EX here with Hell Hardening. Interesting. I wonder if they're going to print it this way in English, considering that there are children out there that read this text. But 30 damage plus, you can flip a coin, and if heads, you do 30 more damage. If tails, your opponent is now paralyzed. So this is one of those attacks where it's like, oh, I get to flip a coin, and I can do more damage, or I can paralyze you. And it's like, that's not bad. I actually sometimes would choose to flip tails, that's probably a better choice. But Voltage Crash here does 150, and then you do 50 to yourself. Now, if you have Protection Cube, you can kind of avoid self-inflicting wounds and just hit for 150 for only 3 lightning energy. And you can even slap a Muscle Band, and you do 170, which you can knock out another Thundurus EX maybe. We do have, with this card, we would have Fighting Weakness, and we would have Metal Resistance. 2 retreat costs. That's kind of a bummer compared to the Thundurus from... was it Plasma Freeze, I believe? It was only 1 versus this one's 2. Otherwise, let's go ahead. We're going to skip over a couple more cards. Once again, this Not2 guy here is the same thing as Lugia, right? You can take 1 more prize card. But, Psychic Wave, this attack does 10 damage times the number of energy card attached to your opponent's active. This is never going to do a lot of damage, right? It's 10 times. It's not 10 plus. So if your opponent has nothing, you're not going to do anything. And you're only 40 HP. So this little trait here is just a little gimmick to try to get you to buy into saying, oh, we can try to get another prize. I don't know. Maybe it could happen. I'm not sure. But we're going to skip over a couple of these other guys. I mean, sure, they have some pretty interesting attacks and whatnot. Oh, here we go. This is going to be very interesting, very fun here. Bennett, I can't pronounce this guy. But anyways, Hidden Tools is the abilities. And it basically means that, right, as long as this Pokemon is in play, each Pokemon tool attached to both your players have no effect. So this can nullify things like, G Booster, Rocky Helmet, Life Dew, right? All those aspects, but even regular tools. So that's pretty advantageous if you don't use tools. Things like Muscle Band and Hard Charm could be pretty useful there. And then again, with Dimension Valley, for 2 energy to do 60, it's actually pretty solid, especially if you can flip a Muscle Band, but then you're already negating the Muscle Band, so you really can only do 60. But, I mean, yeah, you got the Darkness, Weakness, and Fighting Resistance. I mean, it's a horse apiece, I guess. But we do have the half full Art 1 here, Evolution, once during your turn before attack, even if this card is played during your turn, right? You can just play it in your first turn. That's pretty cool. So not quite, it's very similar to like Eevee's Energy Evolution, but through the trait you can just play it right away if you have it. I mean, that's not too bad, right? And then especially when you're going second after your opponent gets to go first, you can play this right away, and you can just hit for 20 right away, right? And do Evolution Jammer, and then your opponent can't evolve in the next turn. That could be pretty good, right? Let's say you're playing against Pyroar, and they have a Litleo, and they go first, and then it's your turn, and then you can evolve right away, and then hit them with the Evolution Jammer, and kind of go on from there. Now, it makes sense with the combination of Evolution Jammer doing 20 damage, and then Deep Curse doing basically 50 damage. Because, I mean, most basics that evolve, besides things like Phanpy, they're 70 HP and under. So if you can hit right away for 20, and then the next turn you can just hit for 50 if they retreat to the bench, right? You can still hit them from there. So, it could be pretty useful. You never know. We have here Deoxys. I think Deoxys is going to be a theme here, especially with, the Emerald Break, right? Roaring Skies. This is the generation where those guys are pretty big-time players. We have Gallade EX. So our first EX on this list was Thundurus, and here it is, Gallade. You guys might have seen Gallade EX from the, what do you call that? The promos, right? It came in a promo box. But this one I think is pretty good too. Speed Jab, 30 damage. You may have your opponent switch his or opponent, right, with their Pokemon. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's not really a catcher. You can choose to have them switch. I mean, I can see some benefits for that. Side Slasher, 50 plus damage. This damage does 20 more damage for each prize card you have taken. Yeah, I mean, if you've taken 3 prize cards, right? It's okay. It's like Secret Sword, right? You're doing 110. But it could be a really good late game to kind of finish things off. But what we really want to focus on is Mega Gallade. And Mega Gallade's got Maudu Blade, I suppose that's how you pronounce it. But it does 110 damage. And then this attack also does 30 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon that already has any damage counters on them. You know what works really well? Dusknoir. Too bad Dusknoir will get rotated out, but then for a little while, Dusknoir can be paired up, I think, with Mega Gallade. That'd be pretty cool, because that way you can guarantee hit for 30 damage across the board on all of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So I can see something like that happening. Gallade does have a 2 retreat cost, which is pretty costly, but 220 HP, it's alright. I mean, it's not quite the nice 230 or 240, but 220 is pretty decent. And 110 for 3 energy. I mean, yeah, you can play Dimension Valley, and then it's only for 2 energy. I mean, I could see how this could be pretty viable, but I mean, to me, I think if your opponent doesn't have any damage on their opponents, on their side of the field on the bench, then you're really just doing 110 at face value for 3 energy, and that's not very efficient for me. But if you can pull it off, I think it could be pretty fun to play. So we got here Gilgar and Gliscor. I did build a deck off of Gliscor, but we're going to pass up on Gliscor for this year. We have Absol, right? We had the Absol from Plasma Freeze, I think. Was that Plasma Freeze? But once again, Cursed Eyes. When you play this Pokemon from your hand into bench, you can move up to 3 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another of your opponent's Pokemon. That's pretty interesting. That's basically like, moving things around. kind of like Dusknoir's ability, but you have to move up to 3, and you can only do it once, right? So you can't just keep moving around if you change your mind. But I mean, I can see some benefits to this, and I also see some bad things about this too. It doesn't really work early game because there's no damage on the field, and so when you play it and your opponent doesn't have any damages at all on their side of the field, then you really can't do it. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, there's Mach Claw does 30 damage, and it's not affected by resistance. There's not too many things that are darkness resistant, I don't think. Maybe there are. I don't know. You guys can post them on the video below. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, it's not that great either. For 2 energy, you're doing 30. You do have that, like, no resistance kind of thing. But, I feel like, man, my shot from the base set does 20 for 1 energy. That's more energy efficient. But I don't know. Okay, so we have Jirachi here, and Jirachi was super popular from Plasma Blast, but Jirachi, the Metal type, wishing Pokemon here, is here again. It's got the attack Small Wish. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You can put a card you find there into your hand and shuffle your deck afterwards. You can choose any card you want, right? I mean, it is your attack, so you have to end your turn after you grab the card. And then if your opponent ends you, then you lose it anyways. Destructive Wish, discard all energy cards attached to this Pokemon. At the end of your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon is knocked out. Now, you might be thinking, oh boy, you're losing all these energies. But let's say, for example, you lock your opponent with Dragalge, you can Hypnotoxic Laser them, and then you do Destructive Wish. You discard all of these. Your opponent either has to knock you out by attacking, or they can play a switch to retreat, right? That would actually cancel the effect because they hit the bench. But now, if they don't do any of those, by the time they end their turn, they will get knocked out. And the thing is, if you have Bronzong on your bench, even if you discard these metal energies, you can always get them back. And, I mean, Jirachi is a 1 retreat cost, but then, yeah, it's not terrible if you just pay the retreat and then bring a fresh Jirachi and just kind of keep going with that, right? You can play, I could see a 4-line Jirachi just doing, Destructive Wish. Maybe we'll see that one day on my channel. I'm not sure. Anyways, we have a couple of different cards here with Togepi and Togekiss and Togekiss, whatever. But I'm going to pass up on that one. Let's take a look at this one here. We have Evolution, the trait here. Once during your turn before you attack, you can play this card even if it's your first turn, and even if you played, Togekiss, right, during that turn. So pretty solid. You can evolve a little faster. I wish they had this trait on stage 1s as well, through the line, but it kind of doesn't work that way, right? We don't really have that trait here either. Then that would have been a lot like the Butterfree line with Caterpie and Metapod from, was it Flashfire? Or I think that was Flashfire. But anyways, it does have this trait, and it has an ability too, right? Serene Grace. Once during your turn before you attack, you can play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon. You may use this ability. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck, then choose as many basic energy you find there as you like, and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. And then you shuffle your hand back, shuffle the remaining cards back to your deck. Now, this could be pretty good for energy accelerating, but for some reason I feel like I think this is a fairy type. Since this is a fairy type, you probably still use it with Aromatisse. Maybe this could substitute for, Geomancy from Xerneas. But for some reason, I feel like Xerneas might be a better and more consistent energy accelerator than Togekiss. I say that because, Togekiss, you're looking at the top 8 cards. What if you only have 1 basic energy in the top 8? That would be a huge bummer. Versus, for sure, Xerneas. When you do Geomancy, you'll guarantee get 2, right? I mean, for anything, you look at the top 8, what if you don't have any energy? That's devastating. And then you evolve them for no reason. Plus this is, it's based on evolution, so you have to use things like, maybe you have to do tricky things like De-Evolution Spray, which is rotated out, I believe. Or you can use like Scoop Up and things like that. But anyways, let's go ahead. We're going to move on. Here's a Dragonite we can take a peek at. We're going to look at the 2 Dragonites in this set. One Dragonite here has the ability Max Win. You play this Pokemon from your hand. So there's a theme here, if you guys haven't noticed. There's a huge theme of playing a Pokemon from your hand onto the bench. Or onto, an evolved Pokemon on your bench. This is a huge theme. We're going to see this throughout the set over and over again. When you evolve, when you play this Pokemon from your hand, you got to get used to that phrase. When you play this Pokemon from your hand, do you evolve? Play this hand. We already saw this from Dragonite, we saw this from Absol, we saw this from Togekiss. Anyways, what you can do is you can move all damage counters from one of your Pokemon and basically is kind of like a max potion, full heal. Like, yeah, it's pretty solid. But again, this is a stage 2, and it's going to take a long time to evolve, and it might be more troublesome than it's worth. I could see him maybe in 1 as a 1/1 line as a tech card. Even Mock Press is pretty bad. Flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, your opponent is now, it's not paralyzed. Like, I guess that's kind of nice, but it is very costly in using a grass, lightning, and 3 energy just to do 80, and you have to flip 2 coins, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but. Anyways, this is I would say this is a better Dragonite. This is only 150 HP. This one's 160 HP, and it's got the same thing as Lugia EX from Plasma Storm. You can take one more prize card. But the first attack, Windborne, choose up to 2 basic energy from your hand and attach them to this Pokemon. Now, it is an attack and will take up your turn, but then you can energy accelerate a little bit faster if you have energies in your hand, right? So, you might want to play things like Professor's Letter to get some energy in your hand and make sure it's very consistent. And then you can just go for a Windbone and play 2 more energies. Now, I don't see this as a standalone card. I don't think so. Heavy Impact does do 150 slap on Muscle Band, and you can do 170. But this is such a huge cost that I feel like, I don't know, to build a deck around this guy, you gotta be pretty faithful to Dragonite. I mean, you could use Virizion EX to power him up, right? You can get 4 energies onto him, and then just slap him lightning energy, and then Dragonite's ready to go. But I mean, yeah, it is 160 HP, so that means something like an Yveltal EX can hit for what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus Muscle Band, 9, 100. No, that's a knockout, right? So that's not very good right there. Okay, so let's take a look. There's Altaria here. We're not too excited about Altaria. We can Echo Song, shuffle cards in your head into your hand, and then you can kind of it's a little bit like Windfall or Eek from what is that? I forgot what is that Pokemon. The Clefable, the baby version of Clefable. I don't know. I forgot what set that's from either. But you can just play this and then draw cards. It's a good draw card. I don't know. We'll see if that's any useful. Let's skip around. Let's go to Latios EX. Pretty neat, I guess. Does 40 damage for 1 Psychic. And, fast raid here, you can do it on your first turn, so that's very nice. That means if you go first, you can just hit for 40 right away if you slap down a Psychic energy, which is not bad. And, yeah, I don't know. So, we do have the other attack here with Light Pulse. I mean, you can prevent all effects except for damage on this Pokemon, meaning like, poison doesn't work anymore or paralysis doesn't work anymore, but your opponent can still hit you. I mean, it's not like Exceligor is still in the game, even if Exceligor was. If you get to go first, you miraculously was able to put up 110 damage, you knock something else, and then your opponent brings out Exceligor, does deck and cover. This is just for example, because Exceligor is, rotated out. But then, for example, it does deck and cover, right? Your Latios EX will not be paralyzed or poisoned. So, I mean, there's some things there. But what we care about is when it Mega Evolves. And, yes, you would lose your turn if you Mega Evolve. But there will be a Spirit Link for this guy, which we will see in a little bit. The Sonic Ace here, you have to discard 2 energy cards attached to this Pokemon. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. This attack does 120 damage to that Pokemon. Okay. Don't apply weakness and resistance. Now, again, there are some things that we can try to do later to see if they can pull this off. But how many things are weak against dragons nowadays anyways, I mean, you have the older dragon-type cards that are weak against dragon types, but otherwise, I'm not too familiar with some of these newer cards that are weak against dragon-type. I don't know how I feel about Sonic Ace. I mean, you are paying for quite a bit just to do 120. I think for a Mega, that doesn't really go well with me. Of course, you can hit anything on the side of the field, and it is an attack. So I would think Mr. Mime can block that. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Here we go. We have a High Dragon here, 180 HP, and it is an EX. Dragon Road, basically, if any kind of stadium card is in play, your Dragon Pokemon gets 2 energy retreat costs less, which is pretty neat. But at the same time, even for your High Dragons, it's a 3 retreat cost. You're still going to have to pay 1 energy to retreat, even with a stadium out. So, yeah, I mean, this is just a little gimmick. I think if you're going to use, like, if you're going to want it for retreat and you're playing Hydreigon, you might as well just play Darkrai because you have the Darkness Energy you can have for retreat anyway. But yes, Darkrai will get rotated out, Legendary Treasures, and then going all as far as back as Dark Explorers, probably will get rotated out. And this only does 80 damage. Shred, which is a little disappointing. Yeah, I mean, you can shred and hit Suicune, but you're going to need a Muscle Band to knock it out. Same thing with a Sigilif. But, if you're going up against, let's say, Pyroar, right? Shred would still hit him, but you're not going to be able to knock him out, right? Unless you had a Laser, and then you can finish off with that extra 10. So I don't know how I feel about that. We have here Reshiram. I don't think Hydreigon's going to be that great, but we'll have to see. Maybe we can build a deck around him. I have no idea. Reshiram here, 130 HP. That's got to be its staple, man. Reshiram and Zekrom, non-EX, are 130 HP. I've yet to see them boost them up to 140. That would be pretty neat, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Turbo Blaze, once during your turn before your attack, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may choose a Fire Energy from your discard pile and attach it to one of your Dragon-type Pokemon in play. Wow, that's pretty neat. That means if you have 4... well, not really 4. If you have 3, all right, let's say you have 3 and you have Keldeo and right, and you have a Switch. That's a crazy combination, but for example, if Reshiram is your active spot, right, and you can use something like a Battle Compressor, get 3 Fire Energy out into your discard pile. And then you can use the ability Turbo Blaze, and then you rush in and retreat with Keldeo, bring another Reshiram up, Turbo Blaze again, and then play a Switch to get the last Reshiram up, and then use Turbo Blaze again onto this Reshiram, right? So that means that you can get 1, 2, 3 Fire Energies in that turn, and then you play a Lightning Energy, and then you can hit for 110. But then you have to discard a Fire Energy from this Pokemon. So I don't know, all of that just to do 110, and then you got a discard is kind of depressing, But it's just a thought, right? It's just a thought. So we're going to skip over a couple of these guys. I mean, you don't know. These could be some pretty cool Pokemon that we could use. Skarmory's there as well. Some pretty neat Pokemon. Okay, here we go. We got Swallow here. It is a stage 1. And it's also got that, it's kind of like the Caterpie and Metapod kind of effect. Oh wait, never mind. This is the Lugia effect. Sorry, I apologize. If you knock out a Pokemon, you can take 1 extra prize card if you get knocked out with this attack. So Wing Attack does 50 and Peck does 30 for, you can just drop a DCE and then you can slap a Muscle Band and you can Peck for 50, and then your next turn you can drop down any energy. You can Wing Attack for 70, which I don't know. But this guy's only 90 HP. Chances are your opponent probably knock him out before you have a chance at knocking theirs out. So here we go. We have the Altaria here. Altaria's got the... this is the one with the... sorry, I've looked at these cards before, but so this has got the Caterpie and Metapod kind of effect. You can kind of evolve them right away in your first turn. Even if you've played Swablu on your first turn or on that turn of your turn, you can play him. You can evolve right away. That's right. The ability here, as long as this Pokemon is played, each of your colorless Pokemon have no weakness, which is pretty cool. I mean, yeah, who would not want that, right? Now, Miltank can avoid getting knocked out by fighting Pokemon, and I mean, even Altaria here can avoid getting electrocuted. The attack, we're not too concerned about the attack. That's pretty weak. But okay, this is the big guy. Okay, here's the big guy. We have Rayquaza EX here, 170 HP. Rising Burn does 10 damage plus, right? If your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX, then this attack does 50 more damage. This attack here, to me, I feel like is a little bit of an upgrade from, what's that guy? Hawlucha, right? Hawlucha for 1 fighting energy can do 60 damage, and Hawlucha can only hurt EX Pokemon, right? So that's the disadvantage with Hawlucha. Now, with Rayquaza, you can at least make a dent on non-EX Pokemon. You can do 10, right? And if you have Muscle Band, you can do 30. So that's a little advantage there. I think that's a nice advantage. Plus, it's colorless, so it doesn't have to be fighting type. I mean, I know that Hawlucha, the advantage is that you can use, it's a fighting type, so you can use things like, Fighting Stadium, Strong Energy. But again, Hawlucha can only attack EX Pokemon. But, this attack is very similar. You can do 60 to an EX, plus a Muscle Band, you can do 80. for only 1 energy, which is pretty solid. And now we do have the Dragon Pulse, does 100 damage. You got to discard 3 cards from the top of your deck. I mean, nowadays, discarding cards from the top of your deck doesn't really matter, since if you can have Lysander, you're not as worried as before. Prior to this, like, you're discarding, like, there's the Dragon type Charizard. I think you discard like 5 cards. And it's kind of like, oh my goodness, you're going to mill yourself to death, you know. But nowadays, it's like, as long as you got a VS Seeker in hand, and even if you discard Lysander's trump card, you can always just VS Seeker Lysander's trump card back into your hand, and then, you know, just do the whole thing over again. But 100 damage is, it's okay, it's pretty decent, plus it's a colorless type. So Mega Rayquaza is the guy we want to take a look at. Emerald Break, what a sweet attack. This is an awesome Pokemon card. The art here is great. I mean, I think the art here for Rayquaza is really nice too. Like, you can see all the way to the end of the tail. It's almost like like this beautiful dragon just weaving through the sky. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. And then you see here, you notice the difference, right? The sharpness with Mega Rayquaza compared to the nice curvature of Rayquaza, and then bam, it's just this huge Emerald Break. This guy is in beast mode here. But anyways, this attack is pretty cool. It's very similar to you know, it's got this, you know, the bench kind of collective bench attack kind of feel. I think there's a Pokemon, I forgot its name. It was in the Flash Fire set, but there's Empoleon, of course. But this attack, right? Emerald Break does 30 damage times the number of Pokemon on your bench. Wow, that's pretty cool. That means if you have a full bench, right, that's 5 times 30. You're doing 150, slap a Muscle Band, you're doing 170. Very solid, okay? But we're going to see a Stadium card work to Mega Rayquaza's benefit. And the Stadium card allows you to have up to 8 bench Pokemon. And wow, I mean, up to 8. That's if you have a full bench, then you have 200. You're doing 240 damage. Plus a Muscle Band, you can do 260. But you know, at 240, like why would you want to do more, right? So that's pretty cool. We'll have to take a look out on this. Now, this is this might be my favorite card in this set, right? I love you know, Mega Rayquaza. I think this is a great card. This is a pretty sweet idea. But for some reason, I really like Shaymin EX. It's only 110 HP, but it's got this ability set up, and we saw this ability back in the day. I forgot which one it was. You can write it in the comment below. Now I'm drawing a blank. The name starts with a U. I can't remember the name. I'm just drawing a total blank. But anyway, set up here. Once during your turn before you attack, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you can draw cards until you have 6. That's pretty good. I mean, yeah, it just helps you draw cards, right? For example, let's say, so the attack here is Sky Return, okay? It does 30 damage, and return this Pokemon, and all cards attach right back to your hand, okay? So, for example, let's say this could be a really good wall kind of deck, very similar to Donphan. Okay, so let's say we have a Wailord, or even a Trevenant with the ability, I forgot what the ability is called, but, you know, stops your opponent from playing item cards, right? Item lock them. You can use either Wailord or Trevenant or even like Snorlax or something like that. But let's say you have basically the idea is you have a wall, right? You play Shaymin EX onto your bench. You can set up and draw 6 cards, okay? And then once you do that, you just use Keldeo to rush and retreat or something, or you can just retreat the active. Like, let's say Wailord gets a Floatstone. And then you just hit them for, you know, Sky Return, right? Slap a Muscle Band, and you can Sky Return Shaymin EX and the Muscle Band and the DCE back into your hand, right? And then I guess you can just move your wall back up, right? Let's say you can even have Dragalge on your bench and keep it as a poison lock, right? Lock your opponent from retreating. I don't know. I'm not sure. But then your opponent can always play N, and then you lose Shaymin EX anyways. That would be a huge bummer, but hopefully your opponent doesn't play N. I mean, you could have something like, what's that, Sentinel Guard from Boundaries Crossed with that one dog. He's a stage 2 dog. I can't remember. But then you can, like, support lock your opponent as well. I'm not sure. But we'll have to wait and see what we can do with that. I think I will definitely like to make a card around this guy. That'd be pretty fun. So that's enough about him. Okay, Unfezant here. We have a stage 2. Once during your turn before attack, you can play this card from your hand to evolve one of your your Pokemon that in play. So very similar again with the Metapod and Caterpie, Butterfree line. So you can evolve right away, right? We have here Feather Dance. If this Pokemon's attacks next turn, its attack does 80 more damage. Oh, that's pretty interesting. And then with this next attack, Sky Attack, you can do 120 damage. Flip a coin. If tails, this attack fails. Now, that's a bit of a bummer. But if we can think about it, we can Feather Dance, right? And the next turn we can Sky Attack. If we flip heads, we'd be doing 100 and we will be doing 200 damage. Wow, that's pretty cool. 200 damage right there from Unfezant. Okay, let's move along here. We have a reprint for Revive that came back from like the base set in black and white. Trainer's Post. Oh, excuse me. I was about to cough right there. I'm sorry. Trainer's Post here. You can look at the top cards of your deck and then choose the trainer card you see there, except for another Trainer's Post. I don't know. It could be just a nice little item card gimmick. But Mega Turbo, this is pretty cool. Attach one basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your Mega Evolved Pokemon play. And then you can play as many item cards, of course. So this means that if you have 4 of these in your hand, and let's say you have 3 of these in your hand, and you have a Battle Compressor, you can Battle Compressor for 3 basic energy and play Mega Turbo, and just Turbo Energize energy right onto your Mega Pokemon. Now, this only works for Megas, so you're gonna have to take a look at what advantages that is. If you're playing a Mega, maybe that's a very viable card. Wide Lens. So this is what I'm talking about here. This allows you to have weakness, applies weakness and resistance. Now, the bummer is that it applies resistance, but the advantage is that it still applies weakness, right? So let's say you have Landorus EX, you attach this onto Landorus, and both your opponent's active and your opponent's bench is weak against fighting, then you'd be doing 60 damage to both of them. That's pretty cool, and that means you're really doing 120 damage for 1 energy, which is slick, if you ask me. So wide angle lens is pretty cool. Gallade Spirit Link, we got one of these just to not miss out on your turn when you evolve and you Mega Evolve. Same thing with the Latios Spirit Link. Onto the supporters. There's 2 supporters in the set. We have here Winona. You can search up for 3 colorless Pokemon into your hand and then shuffle them in later. It's kind of like the what is that? It's not like Pokemon Fan Club. It's more like Pokemon Collector. That came back a couple sets ago. But the advantage here is that you can look up to 3. They don't have to be basic. It just says 3 colorless Pokemon. So that's very cool. It's not like Pokemon Fan Club where they have to be basic. Wally here is also pretty fun, right? I mean, it's very similar to Professor... gosh, I can't remember his name, but you just search for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX, and put it onto that Pokemon. It evolves as evolving. Shuffle your deck afterwards. So here, this is the nice part. It says you can use this card during your turn, your first turn, or on a turn when your Pokemon was just played, right, during that turn. So this could be a very good answer to, the problem with Stage 2 decks. They just take so long. But now you can use Wally, and you can just search for, that card, and you just evolve right away. I think that's pretty good. Makes your deck very consistent, and you're able to consistently find, like I say, you have an Empoleon deck. I mean, you can pretty consistently get Empoleon into play, even as fast as turn 2, right? So turn 1, your first turn, if you can play Wally, and in your first turn you can evolve your Piplup right away. Right, in your next turn, you can play Wally again, use it via Seeker or something, and you can evolve again. So, I don't know. That could be pretty good. I think I kind of like Wally. That's pretty nice. Sky Field. Okay, this is the card I was talking about. You can have up to 8 Pokemon right there. And the thing is, if it gets countered, then it just goes back to 5. You have to discard the Pokemon. That's a bit of a bummer. But if you can play, like, Ninetales and shut off, right? So you can play Sky Field and then play Ninetales, and then you shut off your opponent from playing any other stadiums. That could work very well. But of course, that can always fail if your opponent plays Garbodor or plays Wobbuffet and puts Wobbuffet into the active spot, and then that would actually cancel out Ninetales' ability, and then your opponent can counter this, and then you have to end up discarding your Ninetales or something. So that's that. Double Dragon Energy. This is a special energy. It works only for dragons, and it counts as any type. But, you can only play it on dragons, and it counts as 2 energy cards. Okay, so right there, two energy cards, Double Dragon, and only works for dragon type. So here we go. We have the full arts here. We got a full art Thundurus. I'm not going to talk about their attacks since we've already talked about them. Here's the full art Thundurus. Here's a full art Gallade. Here's a full art Mega Gallade. I think the Thundurus looks pretty cool, but we're going to put them away. We have these 2 guys here with the Mega Evolution of Gallade, and it's pretty cool. I like all the. It has kind of this chalky feel, at least for now, but very very nice texture. Over here we have just like a lot of this is the theme with these megas, just everything explosions, stars, shiny things, but I like it. I like it. So again, we're going with this kind of interesting, color-like feel, just this smooth flow. If you guys notice, there's kind of a theme here with these non-megas. I mean, you can see some sharpness and edginess in here, but then it's very just kind of this more somber feel. And then once you get to the megas, it's like everything's just kind of like crazy, making it super mega, quote unquote. Get it? Let's see here. We have the Hydreigon here. Yeah, very chill Hydreigon. These 2 little weird heads are kind of creepy. And there we go. Here's the Rayquaza. I actually prefer the non-full art Rayquaza art. It looks really nice. I do like this one too. It does, again, it has this very organic feel, very smooth. And then again, we have the Mega, just like, oh, lightning. Let's have purple lightning everywhere. Haha. Okay. That's very fun. Here we go. There's the full art Shaman EX. I can see they're trying to go away from what the Shaman EX looked like in Legendary Treasures and also in Boundaries Cross, the full art ones. I like it. I like that. Okay, so we got Winona here, the full art, very nice. I like that. Very fun. We also have Wally, this guy here with his little Pokeball. I like the background, right? The green, it makes it nice. Feels very peaceful. It's just nice. Okay, there we go. We are on to the 2 secret rares, and I think people are gonna give out their lungs and their arm for these things. The secret rare energy switch. I can definitely see this in a lot of different variety of decks. It'd be really cool to see this. I know I'd like to get my hands on a couple of those. And then, yes, the secret rare gold VS secret. Wow. If you go on eBay right now, the Japanese one is already priced at like $50 or something like that, US dollars. That's crazy. So one thing you might have noticed is that we did not see a Spirit Link for Rayquaza and Mega Rayquaza EX. Now, that's a problem there. We do have an answer to that, and it comes in only in the Japanese set for the Battle Mega Rayquaza EX deck. Now, I'm going to just kind of briefly go through these cards. Here is the Rayquaza. This is a Dragon type, unlike the one from the set, which is a colorless type. But the Dragon type, I mean, I'm not a fan of this art style here. It's very 3D-ish. The dragon here, this kind of style makes it look like the dragon, a very classical Japanese dragon. I like that. That's actually pretty good, actually. So, let's just observe their attacks really quick. We have Dragon Claw for a DCE. You can do 30 damage. And then we have here Dragon Strike for a lightning and 2 fire energies and a colorless. 130 damage. You can flip tails. Then you can't use Dragon Strike in your next turn, which is not a terrible drawback. You have things like Keldeo that can rush and retreat, or you can just retreat and then use a switch, things like that. But with this Mega here, we have wild damage. Let's see here. I think it's just called wild. I'm not sure what this is called. But, damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent. Oh, wait, what am I reading here? This is the trait over here. The trait's wild. Wow, that's cool. Sorry. I actually didn't review this card ahead of time, so I'm baffled by it as well. Damage done to this Pokemon's attack by your attacks from your opponent from these types here, which I believe that's grass. Let's see here. What is that? Fire, grass, water, something rather. Is reduced by 20. Okay, pretty cool. Now, Dragon Ascent does 300 damage, and you have to discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon. Now, it is 300 damage, and it is a very costly amount of energy to do 300. But there really is no drawback compared to the Charizards from Flashfire. Those drawbacks are pretty huge. This right here, you only discard 2. and I feel pretty comfortable with discarding only 2 energies. Yeah, I mean, especially if you can have Reshiram, and you can place Reshiram into the active spot, and then draw an energy, and then switch him, and then use energy switch. I'm just kidding. That's too many combinations. Anyways, here we go. We have the Zekrom here. This is the counterpart to Reshiram. I don't know if we'll see this in the American sets. We might see it in the American sets. I'm not too sure. But anyways, that's the thing, too. We might see these, even though this is in the battle deck, the Mega Rayquaza battle deck here, we might see this in the English set. That's the thing with these Japanese sets. They sometimes don't include all the cards that the American sets have. But here's the card that I really wish was printed in the Japanese set that we can guarantee and know for sure that it will be in the American set. So who knows? This might be a one and done deal in this Mega deck, exclusive deck in Japan. And we may never see the Spirit Link hit U.S. soils or any other place. But I'm crossing my fingers, and I'm very hopeful that we will see a Rayquaza Spirit Link. That would be very awesome. And that way we don't lose the turn when we Mega Evolve. But, you know, you never know. Anyways, Steven here is a pretty cool supporter. Search your deck for a supporter card and 1 basic energy card reveal, then put them back into your hand, shuffle your deck afterwards. I mean, yeah, you can search for another supporter, and then you can get an energy card. But it's kind of neat. It's a little gimmick, but stick to your professor's letter and maybe even stick with Skyla, right? I mean, Skyla's gonna get rotated out, but you think about it, like, yeah, I can just play professor's letter and use Skyla. But the benefit with this guy is, like, you don't have to play 2 cards, you just play 1, and you only get 1 energy. But whatever. So, anyways, that's it for the deck review. Really quick highlight is it's got to be, I think, the huge excitement, right? We're probably going to see quite a bit of hype from these guys right here, right? So Emerald Break with the combination of that the Sky Stadium there can do a ton of damage, and I think that's definitely worth it. This is an Emerald Break set, Roaring Skies, so this guy is the cornerstone of this set. Go figure why they super powered him up, made him a little bit OP, I suppose. Well, we'll see, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that you can make him really good. With Altaria, getting rid of the lightning weakness, with Ninetales locking up the stadium, having up to 8 players on the Pokemon on the bench, and I mean, wow, for only 3 energies, hitting for 240 damage potentially is pretty sweet. So, anyways, that's it for this deck review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my first one. Maybe in the future I'll do some more, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Give this video a thumbs up if you guys haven't, and please do subscribe, and that way I can feel more encouraged to get to you guys some more Pokemon TCG Online content. By the way, if I can get up to 1,000 subscribers, I'll tell you guys the secret behind my name, because I don't know. I think a couple of you guys were interested. Hey, why is your name a blue golf ball? But anyways, hopefully you guys have a good day. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.